Welcome to another special episode of My Thick Accent. Today, we are continuing to celebrate the milestone of 25 episodes because why not? It's been an incredible journey so far, and we have had the privilege of hearing from so many fascinating guests who have shared their stories of life as immigrants in Canada and other parts of the world. But today, we are bringing back one of our guests to celebrate this moment with us and reflect on the journey so far. We'll be looking back at some of our favorite moments from the past 25 episodes, sharing our gratitude and appreciation for all the guests and listeners, and the tables will be turned once again. So sit back, relax, and today you are listening to My Thick Accent podcast with Gurasis Singh and Ramneet Brar. So, hi, Ramneet. Welcome back on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Gurasis. It's super exciting to be back here.
So, let me start by telling you and my listeners as well that why I thought of doing this with you. So, I remember your episode was like my 7th recording that I did, and also the last recording before I launched the podcast. And your episode was special in a way that it was for the first time I was kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. I asked the questions I have never asked before. I touched on topics I've never touched before. And you were very sweet, very generous, and you answered all those questions without any hesitations. And that episode was also one of my longest recording I have done for the podcast, even till date. From the 25 episodes, I think it was like around 2 hours or so. And I think I thoroughly enjoyed that episode. I also remember you just, I think 2 weeks before I launched the podcast, you made a post about the podcast that, hey, I did a recording with Gurasis, etc., etc. And it was for the first time somebody talked about the podcast way before I even launched it. So that was also very special for me. So thank you for doing that. So when you did that, I was like, okay, I think now I'm ready to launch this. So that's why I thought of doing this for you. So thank you so much for doing this on such a short notice and for joining me here.
Oh, absolutely. I enjoyed the episode so much as well. When it came out and I saw the duration, I would remember I was like, man, I talk so much. I need to like reduce talking that much. But I agree. I think when you're having a great conversation, for once, I love long form content. Like I really enjoy listening to conversations where you can dive deep and give a true full picture of an answer and not just one liner that somebody needs to hear. So I
Yeah.
truly enjoyed that conversation. I'm really proud when I see the progress you've made and the stories you've brought to light and the the reception of the podcast as well. And it is such an important topic for all of us to talk about our journeys in Canada, our journeys of setting up a new life, our journeys of adapting to a new accent, and all of that, the part of your identity. I think it's such a great topic that you've picked and a podcast you've created. And, we've talked about this before as well of
Yeah.
bringing people's story to light. Like it is just such a wonderful take at podcasting. And I think people really want to know each other's stories. And the more stories we know, the more empathy we build for everybody around us. So thank you all to you and kudos to you for getting to episode 25. I think for a first season of a podcast, it's a great achievement and something I personally look up to as well. And hopefully one day we can create a podcast as well and it can get to episode 25. I would be looking forward to that day for sure.
Absolutely. I'm so down for it. And thank you so much for all your kind words once again. And, I also remember we were discussing a few weeks ago that, that where do you want to take this podcast? I think we spoke in the beginning of February at some time. And, I told you that I want to make this like a go-to place for people, for immigrants. And I just kind of reflected on that a little bit after our conversation. And I thought about that and I was like, okay, I want to make this podcast a repository of information. And by that, I means that I want this podcast to be like a comprehensive and reliable source for listeners, seeking that information on the experiences of immigrants, like you just said, experiences in Canada and even other parts of the world that they immigrate to. And this could evolve, covering a wide range of topics, related to immigration and including legal issues also, if at some point I bring those professionals on the podcast, some cultural challenges, social integration, and some career opportunities. Just the people like yourself, you talk about career opportunities and job search in Canada and much more. And also, I also want to focus on, providing that detailed and informative discussions on all these topics. And this then only I think I feel like this podcast can serve as a go-to resource for individuals who are new to Canada or who are considering to immigrate to Canada. And also I think by doing this, I am putting in myself at a position where I will act as a trusted authority on the experiences of these immigrants in Canada, and also, so that I can provide like a valuable resource for individuals seeking guidance or any kind of advice or support within Canada, whether they come with a permanent residency or as a national students, or wherever they are at any stage of their journeys. So this is what I hope to do with this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think you're on the right track for it, and I totally see the value in something like this as having a reliable source,
Yeah.
but also getting information from people who've been there, done that. It's
Yeah.
easy to teach ideologies, but it's only valuable if you've either lived through it or if you've done that. And I
Yeah.
think I personally value advice more for people who've walked a mile in those shoes before
Mm.
they give advice, because I know it's coming from a place that it has been proven. And I always believe that if you're not ready to do something for yourself, you wouldn't be able to do it for someone else, and that advice might not work for someone else. It might work, but that's just
Yeah.
my opinion. And I think it's great that you bring those people to bring that kind of advice, and then yeah, it's become that trusted source where
Yeah.
all the saved together and people know that they can find that kind of reliable information and those conversations in one place. I
Mm.
think truly amazing.
And you said it very correctly. It all starts from the very beginning. Like you said, the people who have walked a mile, we will actually trust them more. And it starts from the very first step, that reaching out to that, immigration agent in our city, respective cities where are from. And we think about that, hey, these guys are just here. So like nowadays, things are changing, that people do say that, hey, trust the people who are already in those countries they immigrated to, rather than listening to those immigration agents who are just sitting within the same city you are at. So yes, that starts from the very ground up. That's for sure. Yeah. And I see that you're also, Ramneet, doing some amazing work. I think, tell us what has changed since the last time you were here.
So much has changed since the last time we recorded that episode.
Yeah.
The first thing is I went full time into
Yes.
ISM Power. I remember the last time we had a conversation, I was still working at KPMG. So
Mhm.
now I'm a full-time co-founder and COO at ISM Power. We've launched our HR portal publicly. So now we have
Mhm.
our portal where students can find jobs, they can connect to employers, they can find resources,
Mhm.
they can find mentors, and find a community of students, similar to what you said, a place of reliable information, reliable job opportunities, coming from employers that actually do value them and actually
Mhm.
want to give them a place where they can grow, connecting students to mentors and peers who really want to become better and who are here with a similar goal in mind as they have, to build a better life for themselves in Canada, and ultimately give them all the resources that they need from the right people, so and at the right time as well. So they graduate, beyond that they can really set themselves up for success, because it's not a one day thing, it's not a one day, 1 week effort, it's a lifetime of an effort. But if you get resources at the right time, you're able to start investing in that bigger future. So that's what
Yeah.
really changed within ISIM Power. Definitely, we've launched a lot more projects. We are working on different initiatives, really experimenting in ways we can bring more not just more opportunities, but more ways for students to build a better life, which includes, finding opportunities for them to upskill, finding internship opportunities, getting the opportunity to work in up and coming tech, in the startup industries, places that really will become the future. And I
Hmm.
really want to be at a place where I'm able to also have conversations now with the stakeholders, which are higher education, immigration, people who really can make a decision which can really
Hmm.
impact a bigger population. I think I've realized I want to focus my efforts more in that direction, that I can actually bring a change using the platform I have
Hmm.
rather than just using that platform maybe to get more followers for myself. I think I really took a
Yeah.
conscious step back towards the end of last year to really understand what I'm using my platform
Hmm.
for, and also for myself to not let the temporary things cloud my judgment in the way of a long-term impact. Like sometimes it's so easy, especially when you're in public eye, to make a comparison of somebody else's follower count, somebody else's opportunities. Is somebody else
Yeah.
getting more podcast episodes than me? Are people
Yeah.
going on doing bigger conferences, speaking opportunities, and awards, and all those things? And those are all lucrative things to get. But ultimately, I think I've realized when you're really truly building a venture, something that can really bring an impact, there's a lot of work that goes on which would never be public, and
Hmm.
only the result will be public. But sometimes you just have to let your work speak for itself and focus your energy in the right place. So definitely, I think my work life has completely changed. My
Hmm.
flexibility for my life has completely changed. The way I approach work, the way I approach different things in my life, has been has been a very positive change. And I think
Hmm.
taking a step away from corporate culture, from the 9 to 5, from I was doing consulting, so very like hour focused work, very much result
Hmm.
focused work, kind of taking a step back from there to working on things which takes longer to build and even
Hmm.
longer to get results. Building
Absolutely.
something from scratch up that I have no reference to of like what is the right way to do it. I think I've been very used to. I started working at KPMG when I was 20, so I was very used to always working in a structured environment. This is your responsibility. This is what you do. This is your KPI. This is your performance review. And, there's a system set in place. And now there
Yeah.
is no, and now you're building the system. And it's a
Mm.
refreshing change, but it's also a very daunting change for someone who's so used to a structure to figure out when I'm doing enough. Because you can never do enough in a startup, you can always do
Yeah.
more, right? And you understand that every time you have your own project, there is no limit to it. You can always do
Mm.
more, you can always bring more results in because the more effort you put in, the more results you get. But at what point do
Yeah.
you draw that line to build that balance as well? So I think ultimately, yeah, all of that has been what has been the change, and I'm navigating that, and it's a new world, but I'm really enjoying it as well because it feels like I'm starting my career again, a new industry, learning new things, getting a chance to be creative, and I think I'm really enjoying that. And I'm in it for the ride, in it for the highs and the lows,
Mhm.
and it's been a blessing so far for sure.
And a lot of celebrations at your end as well. Like you guys have hit more than 6,000 users on your portal, right?
We hit 7,000 now, actually.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yes, so we had to take a pause. We were, you're excited to do product. We're like announcing 5K, 6K, like everyone.
Yeah.
And then we announced 6K, and I'm talking to my marketing manager. I'm like, we're hitting 7K in a week. So I'm like, do we do another announcement? And then he's like, maybe we should take a break and do 10, 15, 20. And I was like, of course, 10, it's very special. I think I am I used to be a bit shy of talking about, these bigger milestones. I don't want to be too much in someone's face either, but at the same time, I realized is for your own product, like the more marketing you can do, the better, right? Every progress is a progress, and every milestone is as big. Like we were at a place where we didn't have 100, now we have 7,000. We
Yeah.
will be at a place hopefully when this becomes 700,000, and I think I would celebrate it with the same excitement and as I'm celebrating my 7K, because even getting the 7K sounds like a dream, like for a platform that's not
Yeah.
even 6 months old. Like that's students have been just so amazing, so receptive. I've Every single person I come across has been just so helpful and wanting to support. And I'm just truly amazed by how supportive the community is, and how receptive students have been to a newer service. And but at the same time, been so happy to give me feedback as well. I get students who use the platform and are so quick to send me, okay, this is working, this is not working. If you can do this, that would be great. And I was like, look at this. Like, we're
Mm.
getting customer reviews and I'm getting feedback, which is so valuable when you're building a new product. So yeah, students have been so great. And I'm truly, truly amazed by how, even though we're going through such hard times, as a community, as a whole, as a
Yeah.
country as a whole, recovering from pandemic, recession, like things have been tough and market has been tough, but just students are so resilient, and students have
Mm.
so much hope and still have so much grit to wanting to do better. And every single student I come across actually wants to do more, wants more opportunities, wants a bigger opportunity, wants to work more. And that just
Yeah.
makes me so happy when I look at these students, because that's the grit I personally connect to, and which I think is the biggest value that international students and newcomers bring, to continue to build when things are not that great, or when you have to
Yeah.
leave and build it all again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been truly a blessing for sure.
Yeah, and you talked about those 7,000 users. So I remember sharing with you that, I crossed my first 1,000 downloads, and I was a little hesitant to even say that, but I remember you saying that why not? 1,000 is a lot. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes, just imagine. I thought about that. I was just imagine 1,000 people entering a room. Imagine, and it's not a small
Or
number.
you like imagine if you had to stock up 1,000 CDs to sell your podcast and you
Yeah.
sold 1,000 CDs, like
Yeah.
you would feel like, holy shit, what did I do? But just because it's
Exactly.
virtual, and again, as I said, we're so used to like more, right? Like I think that's what social media does, is you want more. It's never enough. Like what is that number that's enough? When you hit 1,000, you still have to hit 10,000. 10,000
Yeah.
you have to 100,000, right? Like there's
Yeah.
always more. And it's so easy to be like, it's just 1,000, but it's 1,000. Like people don't even get 5 downloads. You got 1,000. Like for me, it's
Yeah.
mind blowing when I see that number for something that's homegrown, for something that's completely bootstrapped,
Exactly. Yeah.
no fancy production whatsoever. People with the fanciest productions can get to 1,000 downloads either. So no, you should always, always celebrate it, and out and loud and proud. It's your hard work, and you'd get to decide that it's big enough for you to celebrate. So
Yeah.
no, you should definitely. And 1,000, I'm sure the number's grown by now, but for sure.
Yeah, I think also like with the full-time job, I remember you also have definitely started with a full-time job, and it takes a toll on you sometimes.
Of
You are
course.
there are days you are not in a mood, you're having some issues with technology, just like today we
Yeah.
had. Then you are like that. There are days, when you feel like that, what am I doing? Am I really doing it correctly? You start questioning yourself, the things that you do, but I think it's fine. Everybody has those ups and downs, those good and bad days. But the only thing is that the thing that kept me going was, Ramneet, this mission and this vision to create this content that's gonna benefit people at some point. And I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago, and I asked, she just reached out to me randomly, and she has done a lot of work, against racism that happens, and against the things that marginalized communities that has to face. And she said, I don't want to come on the podcast. And I said, why? She said, I don't have any following, I don't have any, the people that look forward to my posts. And I said, hey, it does not matter. I said, my podcast is not about bringing the people who have followers. No, no, no. It's about bringing forward the stories of people who are making an impact or making a mark. And that's going to benefit people. I said, I know right now it might be 1,000 downloads, but I know that maybe in a couple of years or in a couple of months, it's going to be maybe 1 million. I'm hoping for that. Why not? Let's just manifest that. I'm hoping for 1 million. I said, at that point, if any of those listeners, any of those followers of the podcast come across your episode, in an year or so, just imagine how much they will be educated about the work that you have been doing from past 10 years. And she was working with that community for 10 years, Ramneet. And she moved to Canada, I think, from Singapore. And I think at some point her story I'll bring her on the podcast because I convinced her and she said, yes, I will be there. But yeah, that's what it is. It's not about bringing forth the stories who have followers or who are bringing along like a clout with them. No, no, no. It's not about that. It's about anybody who has a story. And if that can inspire people, why not? And like you said, that we do have this tendency to compare ourselves with other people. And tell me, Ramneet, do you feel like, because somebody else also asked me this and I'll answer that for myself also, the work that I do, but tell me, what did anybody has ever asked you, or I am asking you, what if somebody else builds something like Is Empower?
Of course, I hope somebody else goes out there and builds something even bigger and better. I
Hmm.
always believe that I don't think the world we live in we can exist without competition. and
Yeah.
and there are already platforms who are out there helping international students, so it's not
Hmm.
like we're existing in complete isolation. Like
Yeah.
everybody, the space we are in, yes, 3 years ago we were sort of one of the only ones, but whenever we look at it now, there are multiple organizations, non-for-profits, charities, like who are operating within the same space. What I truly believe in is that my work, what I bring to the table, and what my
Yeah.
organization brings to the table will speak for itself. And as long as we continue to bring value, it will continue to work. I cannot exist in a place where I hope that somebody else doesn't brings any value so that
Hmm.
my product could shine better. It's just not a way you would grow. It's a way I guess you create a monopoly. But yeah, I don't think I'm scared of competition. If anything, competition excites me. I would take it
Hmm.
on as headstrong, and I would want to challenge myself and my team to do bigger and better things. But I am absolutely okay with competition. Does that competition scare me? Of course. You are always want to be better. You always want to do better. That's just my inner like little competitor in me. I always want to be the
Yeah.
best, and I can only do that with things that are in my control. What somebody else does, if somebody else is copying my idea, if somebody else is copying my content, I used to get very bothered by it before because I don't believe in cheating. I don't believe in giving away things I've worked on for somebody else's convenience. Even when I was in high school, I wouldn't, I am okay to support one another if you just don't know an answer to a question. But if
Yeah.
somebody wants to blatantly sit behind me, copy each and every answer without having to do the work themselves, I wasn't okay with it. Because for me, it's like
Yeah.
I spent the time to study and work and come give this exam, so can you. And if we are all human, we can help each other. But I am not going to sit here and let you copy all my work without you having to put in any of your efforts. And that has always been my um, principle, as even as a kid, and even now. I am okay with helping people in my community. I've always been that person with my platform as well. Anywhere I go, any opportunity I get, I want to tag that person. I want to bring publicities to their
Hmm.
platform because it's not my platform or my opportunity to talk about. I was given that by somebody else, and I want to make sure that person gets their due credibility. So when people don't do that to me, to opportunities I bring to them, of course it bothers me. It's more so from a place of giving credibility where it's due and not from a place that I don't want competition. So yeah, no, absolutely. I hope people come into this space. There's so many students out there we unfortunately, however big we become, we won't be able to touch each and every student. We won't be
Yeah.
able to bring a change in each and every student's life. And in any organization you build, there's a idea of the market share you would capture. And the ideal percentage is always somewhere 5 to 6 to 7. If you can, that's great. But you
Yeah.
can never capture 100% of your audience. Even the biggest of the biggest unicorns don't have 100% of their audience.
Yeah.
And that will always be the case. So I hope more organizations can come in so that we can bring a change to the international student ecosystem together, and impact each and every life, because the number is only going up. The number is not going down. Sadly, the number is not going down, but the amount of innovation and support that's going is not at all synonymous to the growth. So I want to make sure that the growth at which we're growing, to make sure that the support is growing at the same pace.
Mhm.
So hopefully we bring in more people, we bring in the government, we bring in bigger agencies, higher education, all of us, if we come together, we can really bring that change. And my organization alone, or me alone, can't bring that change alone. You can never bring a change
Yeah.
alone. So yeah, absolutely. I truly hope that I see more people in this space, and
Mhm.
and we have a healthy competition, and we bring the best out of each other. And I'm really, really looking forward to that.
And also, if somebody tries to imitate Ramneet, I feel like it's the intention that matters. What is the intention? If it's not done in the correct with the correct intention, it's not gonna work. It's gonna fall down at some point. And the same goes for me also. I feel like we all are blessed with this, a divine combination of gifts, passions, and experiences that no one in the world can claim from us. No one can take that thing from us. It's unique to us. And if any of my listeners, who would like to start a podcast or anything in the similar space, I'll be more than happy to assist them. I'll be very happy to assist them, give them the resources that I have, or even the struggles that I have faced so far. I can share that with them so that they don't have to wait for 1 year to put the first episode out, or the resources that I have, knowledge I have gained, I'll be happy to share with them. But maybe if even if they're like trying to copy the things that I do, or see, even myself, I am was a heavy consumer of podcasts even before I launched this, Ramneet. And it's like whatever I have done, I have learned from them. It, like we say in Hindi, also in our India also, like nakal ke liye bhi akal chahiye. You need that mind to actually correct copy it correctly, so it's like I have got inspired from those podcasts that I have listened to, and that's why I'm able to do what I'm able to do right now. And if anybody else is trying to do it, they can do it to some extent. But if they're doing it with the intention of just copying because it will bring them more followers, it's gonna fall down. It's not gonna work for the longest time possible. Maybe like a couple of episodes. If there's nothing unique that they're bringing to the table, like you said, it's not gonna work. It's like they would not have that drive to do it, each get up every day and do it, if it's not coming from within, if it's just on the artificial and the surface level. So yeah, neither do I fear about that. People can please go ahead and start it. I want more and more stories to come out. I want more and more voices to really be out there and talk about their struggles and their resilience and the whole ability and the whole journey to finding your home, literally away from home in this new world. And there's this one line, you said in our podcast, and I think I have used that. I've kept that with me, Ramneet. And you said, it's like we are trying to find in a world where the life has never existed before. There is no that shopkeeper that you go to every day, not that sabzi wala that comes to your house every day. So I think I kept that with me after our conversation, and I've used that in many episodes just to tell people the whole intention of the purpose I have, and the reason I'm doing this. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's so true. Yeah, we're really creating a life that has never existed before.
Yeah.
And we are making experiences that have never existed before. And that's how I
Yeah.
like to see myself in my life. Even if you were to stay in your home country, let's just say,
Yeah.
still the experiences you'll have every day, you've never had those before. You've never
Hmm.
experienced this before. So might as well use that to the best of your abilities and view it as something that's unique. And I think I think the insecurity really comes from a place where you think you're not unique and somebody else can take away something from you. But they really can't, they really can't take away your
Yeah.
uniqueness. Nobody is who you are. There's no Gurasis out there. There's
Yeah.
nobody who experienced each and everything that you have. Your life experiences, your memories, your friends, your families, like nobody in this world has experienced what you've experienced. So why would you equate yourself to someone else or try to be someone else?
Mm,
You have yourself because there's nobody else like that. And
exactly.
there's such beauty in it. And just because, and the way that there's nobody else like that, nobody else can take away the opportunity that will be meant for me because it's meant for
Mm,
me. It's meant
exactly.
for the unique propositions I bring on the table. And if it wasn't meant for me, I wouldn't get it because it wasn't
Hmm.
meant for me. It's
Yeah.
you'd never get an opportunity or don't get an opportunity because somebody else had more than you.
Hmm.
You don't get it because you didn't have what it took to take that, or you
Hmm.
didn't take it in the right time. So why are we fearing that, something that's right, so somebody would snatch it away from you? Because they
Exactly.
can't. You'll only pass it on because you weren't ready for it or it wasn't right for you. And I think you just have to accept that sometimes. And it's not easy to accept that. A lot of times it's easier to blame somebody else for taking away something from you versus accepting that you were the one who let it go, or you were the one who wasn't ready for it, or you were the one who it wasn't meant for. Yeah, even if as much as you want it to mean for you, it wasn't meant for you. And
Yeah.
I think it's hard to accept that. So I think that's also something I've realized over the years, and which has made me more comfortable in being able to exist in a place of not feeling that opportunities are being taken away from me, is because nobody can take away opportunity that's meant for me. And I am the only one who can take that away from me. So I have
Yeah.
to make sure I don't do it to myself. And if I do that, I have to accept the consequences of whatever I'm doing. So no, I think Gurasis, what you've built with this platform and the way you've taken it and the way you've structured it, I think it's truly something people are finding so much value out of.
Hmm.
And yeah, I only see nothing but like bigger things from here on for you.
Hopefully, hopefully, I hope the same for that. Thank you for saying it. Okay, Ramneet, so do you have any questions to ask me?
Absolutely. I have two questions to ask you,
Sure.
and probably I should have given you time to introspect on this, but we'll make it more rapid fire. Out of
Hmm.
all the episodes that you've recorded, what were some of the stories or teaching or anything that really like stuck with you or you think really made an impact on you personally?
Great question, huh? I'll tell you about the recordings which stayed with me a little bit. I can tell you about those that, and also the some which were a little close to my heart for various reasons. Nothing that uh, they have got more downloads or less downloads. It wasn't about that. It was just about something special about those conversations that I had. And I think that started with obviously the initial episode that I recorded with Melissa and Sagar, way before I had any plans. And Sagar, like I mentioned previous episode, Sagar was the first person, the earliest people I discussed the idea of the podcast with, other than the people from my housemates. So definitely that Sagar's episode was very special, and he has played a major role in making me connect with other people. And I think you are one of those examples that I was able to connect with you was via Sagar. And the other episode I would say would be the fourth episode, which was with Bani Singh. And that episode was very interesting for me because number one, she was from the same city as I am, which is Amritsar, and we shared that love for the food of Amritsar and just the city in general. So definitely that, and that is also special because out of all my 25 guests, Bani is the only guest I have met in person
Mm.
out of all the guests. And she happened to visit Montreal last summer with her friends, and I ended up meeting her. So that was very nice to see somebody again, like, it makes a huge difference seeing but somebody in flesh other than
Mm.
just virtually. And the other one, like I just said in the beginning, the one that I recorded with you, my eighth episode. I mean, it came as it was the eighth episode I broadcasted it, but it was like my seventh episode. Then also the episode, I did with Ash. And I'll tell you why, because the stereotypes we discussed in there were very relevant to the things I want to focus on. And they both were regarding the stereotypes we have for men. The first thing we discussed was that, hey, when international students come here and they're looking for accommodation, the first thing we see is only for girls, looking for a female roommate all the time. What about men? Where should they go? On the road? So we talked about that really have to break those stereotypes that all people coming from India or all men coming from different parts of the world are associated with a certain behavior, and they are put in a certain box, which is absolutely wrong. Not everybody is same. You cannot generalize this.
Yep.
And the other thing I discussed with Ash was the toxic masculinity. That, growing up, we are asked, all of us, I think I've grown up in a patriarchal household as well. And growing up, we all are taught, most of the men around me were taught, be a man, don't cry. It's the task of the weak, etc., etc. And but then when you start living on your own and you see that these vulnerabilities, these emotions are something which makes you, and if you are able to express them out, that actually makes you stronger, not vulnerable. And especially pandemic taught me in particular, and when I was discussing with Ash and he shared his perspective as well, that no matter what the emotions, happy, sad, angry, etc., these are just emotions, and it's okay to feel them. So these conversations were really interesting that I had. And many other episodes after that, I'm not able to think right now. But this one person I recorded this episode with her name is Shola Rose. So she is originally from Nigeria, and she has worked with UNICEF, other major organizations, UN organizations, in Nigeria. And she has done a lot of other nonprofit with other nonprofit organizations also. And she had her own nonprofit organization as well, where she has worked for the benefit and the growth of Nigeria. And with her, I discussed about this one thing, Ramneet, and even the title of the episode is called Have Blinders Towards the Hate Speech. That's so apt for the international students, because we do hear all those comments coming our way, and what we usually do is we take it to our heart. For example, if somebody is asking about my turban, and if somebody is asking about why is my English so good, sometimes you can actually gauge whether it's coming from the intention of curiosity or they are being racist. You can gauge that, and it's always nice. And for your own sanity, it's important to give the person the benefit of the doubt. And let's just assume the person is curious about it. Person is not aware of it. And instead of taking it to your heart, educate the person. Tell them that, hey, because the more than 10% of the Indian population speaks English, that's why I speak English. And if somebody doesn't know about the colors of my turban, educate them. Hey, because of the colors meant this and this, and colors meant this and that, and my attire meant this. And so these are the topics that I discussed with Shola, and she was also a very positive person. And there were some guests, Ramneet, I think I connected with them like in a second, and you were like one of them. Shola was also one of them, and I don't know what was there. The moment we got on a call, we started talking. It felt like I knew her from decades. It was like that. Yes, so that episode was really special. These were the episodes I can think of. I'm sure that each episode has some of the other uniqueness to it, like we discussed our word of the episode. But I can only think of these for now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think when you're having these conversations, you go deeper into your own understanding as well.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that, conversations really are the way for you to push an envelope, push it a bit further, push your own beliefs a bit further, especially when someone asks you questions about the things that are unique to you.
Yeah.
I find that by answering those questions, your own understanding gets a bit deeper. A lot of time, I agree with you, when I was newer started working in the corporate setting, people would ask me these questions, and sometimes I would just think of like, oh, it's different, so I should just hide it. Questions about my food. I remember coming back from India after attending a wedding, and I brought sweets, the wedding sweets, and
Mm-hmm.
I had like on my hand, and I was going to work, and I for a second I thought I shouldn't take the sweets with me, because like why would somebody want to eat sugary Indian sweets? Like people, I worked in a very typical white office, like
Mm-hmm.
it's different when you have to bring in your own cultural identity to the place, which is very much not aware of your culture, or you might think might not be receptive of that. And I did have people who questioned more things than I would have probably questioned myself. Like people asked me the significance of henna, asked me the significance of distributing a particular kind of sweet, like when I was
Yeah.
talking about wedding tradition, why are some things being done? And a lot of those things I never questioned because we grew up with it, right? We grow up looking
Yeah.
at it, looking around, the significance of, I remember people were asking me the significance of kara, like why you wear a kara, like these
Yeah.
things. And I was like, yeah, you wouldn't question this because everybody does it, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of times when answering that, you realize there are a lot of things maybe about your own culture that you don't know
Don't
about,
know. Yeah.
because we never questioned it, because it was just everybody knew it and it's just a given. So we might not actually know the complete truth about it behind as well. And
Yeah.
sometimes by answering that, our understanding gets deeper. And you're right, like not everybody's coming from a place of ignorance. And even if they are coming from a place of ignorance, it's just lack of information. And what you
Yeah.
can do is give them better information so that at least by the next time they ask someone that, they'll have a bit more of a context than what
Yeah.
they do now. Even if it is ignorance, they're able to maybe get out of it by just knowing more. So that's very interesting. And I'm very interested in your conversation with Ash. Actually, I met Ash in person. I met Ash multiple times. I think such a
Yeah.
great guy. Like, I really respect what he's building and the hustle he has behind what he does, but like very sorted guy for sure as well.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting you guys had that conversation, because I agree that there's a lot of stereotypes that goes on for men here as well. There are not a lot of landlords who are very eager of having men, oh, like in their houses, and rightfully so. We've seen the bad examples of that as well, and I think anything that gets generalized for the whole
Yeah.
community is never great. But everybody's coming from a place of hopefully for some experience and not just because they think so. So I'm very interesting, as you say, you grew up in a very patriarchal household as well. And, now that you are in a newer country, this is nothing to do with your podcast, but I'm just interested to know this more about you. You are set an expectation of the kind of a man you have to become when you grow up, right? Like this is what you should be in order to get the good life partner, in order to be that successful man we all want, the head of the household kind of man, right? And now that you have grown up and you've been able to distance yourself from it, it allows you to build a definition for yourself, right? Like it allows you to maybe change the narrative a bit of the kind of man do you really want to become and you are becoming now. So, how do you think that has changed? And what are some of the major things you think you were able to let go of, or at least debunk for yourself, and allow yourself, like, hey, I don't need to do that just because it's expected out of me? I know you touched a bit on emotions and being able to express your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm sure there's a lot more that stereotype for man growing up of what you should be doing and what's the ideal head of the household kind of man you should be, versus now that you are in that stage where you're hopefully looking at building a partnerships in the future, and
Sure.
bringing in life partner and the kind of man you want to become in that setting. Like, I'm just very interested how that shift happened for you.
That's a very interesting question, Ramneet, and a difficult one, but I'll try
It's
my
okay.
best.
You have it. Yeah.
Like I said, patriarchal, as the name says, patriarchal. It's the father who was usually the decision maker of the house, and everything that has to happen in the house has to be filtered by the father. It was just happening from past many years, and I would say I would not blame any of the people from those generation because they are the product of their own time, and they were just trying to do the things that they have seen and they were taught, and they were just trying to pass on the same things to the next generation. But we guys, the kind of, especially the millennials, we were exposed to the world which nobody has ever seen before. Our parents could not even think about the thing called internet. We got exposed to so much that has shaped the person we have become right now. And at the same time, I would add, the people I have met in my life during my high school, during my bachelor's, during my other education institutions that I have attended, I have learned so much from them, Ramneet, that it made me realize that yes, it's okay to feel emotions, but at the same time, if I talk about in a partnership, that the one that you are referring to, I understand now, if I compare it to the time when I was growing up, I understand now that maybe back then I could not see a female boss, right? Back then, because that was something just instilled in us growing up. Even if not instilled, that was just coming our way naturally. That, for example, if you think about a boss, you always think about a person with a suit, a man with a suit sitting on a conference table and talking. Why is it that? So I started questioning that because I have two sisters and they are like decade older than me. Literally, they're like 10 years, 8 years older than me. And I see them really, like, now they're married, and I see them making the decisions for themselves and for the family. And maybe they are a more of a decision maker than my brother-in-laws, So I see them, they do have that ability. It's just that women are asked to, again, fit in a certain box and follow a certain rule in a house. But now I think I am at a stage where I want my partner, for example, to be an equal to me. It's like the person who has the ability to make that decisions with me. And I don't want to, I'm not saying my father was wrong at that time or my mother did not had opinions at that time. It was just that was happening organically. That was just how the way it was. But now I feel like rather than me being the decision maker and me being the man of the family, no, it's like the people of the family. Yes, I think if I think you'll agree to it, the definition of the man of the family has changed. It's not about the women sitting at home and the man being the breadwinner of the house. No. It's not there anymore. Things have changed, and now it's time people should come out of that shell as well and burst that bubble that women are being enough empowered, and they should be empowered in more, even more. And we listen to this word a lot these days, being feminist, and uh, we talk about equality there, but for me it's not about women being the same physiologically as men, because men, women, and everybody in between is different. We are unique as an individual. What we should focus on is the equality of opportunities, and appreciating the things women had been doing and that they do. And it's such a sensitive topic, and I also make sure that I discuss this with my family, because and I try to educate them that they have to come out of this bubble, this world that they had been living in from past many years, because it's gonna benefit me and the future relationships that I will build. So yeah, that's how I feel like I can give you the comparison from my father being the sole bread owner of the family, and now me hoping to being an equal with my partner. So yeah, I think that's how I can answer it.
Yeah, no, that's very amazing and very deep what you said. I totally agree. The fact that, our parents, they are who they are because of what they were taught as well. I think we need
Yeah,
to have a lot more compassion for our generation, for our parents' generation as well. And a lot of
yeah,
time, I see people just dissing them or dismissing them for being,
yeah,
you know,
no,
misogynist, you want to say, patriarchal, you want to say, and thinking that they can never change. But we very easily forget that their conditioning is way older, way stronger than ours is. Just as a 20 something person, I wouldn't be ready to change my value system or my belief system for just anybody. And
Yeah.
it's and how can I expect my parents to just change everything because it doesn't fit my upbringing anymore, or doesn't fit my narrative anymore? We need to have a lot more compassion, or for them and for everybody around us. You're so right that what we thought was what a relationship or what work or what anything was supposed to look like growing up has changed so rapidly now, and it's completely different. And we have the flexibility now to decide what it can be for us, right? And it really has to come from a place where you are allowing yourself to also let go of the things that you thought you're supposed to do, and allow
Exactly.
yourself to find that place what your new version of you is okay with, and to know that that's also going to keep changing
Of
as you go
course.
future, and what it looks like. But I truly agree, for especially majority of the Indian men, what we grew up with, what we saw in our society versus to what we are now. Most of us have grown up with homemaker
Yeah.
mothers. I grew up with a homemaker mother. I've never seen a working mother in my life. When I started working, I exist in this place, but now where I'm heading towards now, that in my late 20s, and I'm thinking about building life and building family, it's like I don't know how to exist in that place because I've never seen it. I've never seen a working mother.
Yeah.
I know I can't be a homemaker. So like, what is this in between? But at the same time, for a man, if you've always seen that you're the one who earns, somebody's the one who runs the house. Now you're both going to be working. So that means you're both going to be running the house. Then who does what? And how does the house is being run? Because the house will always need to be run. I think it's very interesting space that we exist in. And we just
Yeah.
need to allow, when I talk about feminism and when I talk about things like that, I think it's truly about both the genders. It's not just
Yeah.
about the women in the world.
Exactly.
If we want to live a life in a certain way, and then live in a life that's empowered, again, live a life that our mothers didn't get to live, we have to allow the men as well then to open up, to start a dialogue as to what does that life look like for them, because that's also a life that you weren't used to, you didn't see
Yeah.
growing up. You weren't expecting this is how it's going to turn up, and slowly over the years we have evolved into this place where we, as you said, we can exist in a true equal partnership. But what does
Exactly.
that look like for both of you? It's going to be debunked so much, and we just need to have this dialogue. I remember listening to this like interview where the woman was saying that we've empowered our women enough, but we've somehow left the men out of that conversation. And
Absolutely.
now that
Yeah.
we're bringing men back into this conversation, it's that, yeah, how can we exist in a place where we're both getting what we want, and we're both understanding what the other person wants, and allowing them to find their unique place into a world now where we can be anything. We
Yeah.
can have any sort of relationship, we can have any sort of equation, we can have homemaker fathers, we can, everything is acceptable in the society. We don't no more longer live in a place where people will shun you for making a non-conventional choice, which it wasn't the case growing up. So how do we exist in a place where we allow both of us, in this, to be who we want to be? And I agree, it's a very sensitive topic, and it's so hard to talk about these things without, offending someone, or without
Exactly. Yeah.
that we're going to step on someone's toes. But yeah, we do really need to have these conversations. So when you did talk about that, I wanted to kind of go a bit deeper in it with you, because I've truly never had this conversation, on a podcast with a man. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
how has feminism impacted you, and how do you, what do you personally see is something that is benefiting you? And you're right, like the fact that you don't have to have that pressure of being the only home bread earner of the family, and to make all the decisions for the family, and to hide all your emotions, and to just like be this strong person for everyone else around you, and just suffer alone. Like, thank God we're not in that space anymore.
Do you really think that our fathers don't cry? Of course they do.
Like twice in my life. Yeah, and I was like, dude, like I something like this. Now I think my father's getting softer, but like I've only seen him cry on death. And I think that's what they use to then just because that's acceptable, right? Like when
Yeah,
someone died, your parent dies, it's an acceptable place for you to grieve. And I think then you grieve together for everything. But yeah, like, I can easily cry about not getting a good haircut, and nobody would really did that. But as a man, like in especially in India where we exist, like people would laugh at you if you did that. And what it does to you internally when your emotions aren't validated in the way they need to be, it goes very deep, and it really truly changes the way you express and the way you become. And I think it's really important for us to also debunk that and allow men to just exist in a place where they also can then let go of those norms that they were told to follow growing up, and you can truly be who you want to be in a
yeah,
place where it doesn't exist before. Yeah, no, definitely very interesting. I think it's nice that you, as you said, that you're also trying to bring in your parents into this conversation, is because if we truly have to continue to exist in a place where we are who we are, we have to open this dialogue with our older generation as well.
exactly.
And I think when I was a few years ago, I wouldn't be able to have certain conversations with my parents because I thought they would never understand it. They don't have the capacity to do so. And slowly over the time that I've opened up the dialogue, it's become more and more comfortable to talk about a certain things, and they understand certain things more because of where I come from, right? And as you said, I agree, right? Like the world we were exposed in is so much bigger than the world they're from.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, okay. Amazing conversation. Coming back to podcasting, I have
Yes.
one question for you, which I wanna very intrigued to know the answer to. The whole process of podcasting, from finding guests, recording, everything, right? And you come from a
Yeah.
media background, so you kind of knew what you were getting into. Is there something about the whole process or about building my thick accent that you thought you would enjoy, but you actually aren't in the whole process? And think that you thought you wouldn't enjoy. It could be a particular step of the process as well. And the thing you thought you couldn't enjoy or you weren't good at, and which actually you ended up liking more. Is something like that exists in this process?
Very interesting question. So obviously, I think I'll start from the point where something which I'm loving not so much, which is definitely, the whole process of reaching out to people. And because it does require a lot of time, like you finding those potential people and reaching out to them. And but fortunately, I think I should also mention and thank you to all the people who reached out to me. I think after my ninth episode, I haven't reached out to enough people, which is amazing. And so I'm thankful for all those people reached out to me. And but still at some point I do come across a few people and few profiles, but it's just that by the end of the week, after your work week, you are at a stage where you are not in that mental capacity to frame a message and reach out to somebody. And it's not that I've done that, but there are days you are just not just not there. You're just not in that mental capacity. You don't have that audacity to really do that. So that is something I find very challenging to do. And there were two things actually which I didn't think I would like, but I absolutely love them. The first is the research part, the research that I do. I thought I might not like it. I don't know why I thought like that, but I absolutely love the research because that really prepares me, makes me fully equipped with the information when I sit on the microphone and talk to the person. And I absolutely love that. The second thing is the introduction part that I write. So writing is something, Ramneet, since my high school, I would say I have always enjoyed, but I'm not that person. If you'll ask me to give you, you'll give me a prompt and I write it instantly. I'm not that person. I need my time. I need to frame my words properly and find the right. I'm also the person who likes to rhyme the words a lot, and so I want my time. I want my own space to do that. So that's something I thought I will not like, because because that takes a lot of effort from me, a lot of effort that I have to put into it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, the moment I sit and when my introduction is done, I feel like I'm done for the whole script. It's like that. Not that I plan my whole script, but it's like when my introduction is done, I feel like, okay, I'm in it. I'm done. I'm ready to take on the world. It's like that feeling I get. So
Yeah.
these two things I really enjoyed, and the teaching out is something that takes a little bit of hesitations, but I think I'm getting there. I think I have crossed that hesitation bridge, and I like that part as well now, to some extent. So yeah,
Mm.
these are the things.
Well, amazing. That's interesting. Definitely, I kind of relate to the reaching out part. I think for any event or anything, you're networking in itself. So building that, a big part of startup is about that as well. Just reaching
Yeah.
out to new people, finding newer things, and it's definitely a very daunting task. I agree with you, especially keeping a track of it too, of like whoever you reach out to, when you need to reach out to them again.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So yeah, very interesting answers. So yeah, those are all the questions I had for you actually.
So, Meet, like I said, we have received some questions from international students. So let's both of us take a stab at those. So the first is, how do you find happiness in small things? No doubt, Canada is one of the most beautiful countries in the world, but initially, when I came here, nothing appealed to me. I just could not connect to the country. Do you think it is normal to feel like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I personally believe that happiness comes when internally you are at peace. I don't think so you're able to truly experience happiness when your mind is not there, especially and yes, when you are newer, because you're still getting used to a new environment, the things that would have given you joy otherwise though are not there, right? Like you don't have that same shopkeeper, the
Yeah.
family, whatever things you do. But I think that's the time when you need to, and I always suggest this to international students, is even if it's you only have a room or you only have a bed, make it in a way that it was in your home, right? Bring
Yeah.
something, even if it's a bed sheet, even if it's a frame, whatever that thing is, bring something familiar with you and do something familiar. Like if it's about eating a dish that you really liked, or if you had a routine of going on a walk, try to get back into that routine. The environment might be different, but the feeling of doing something similar and familiar would bring back that happiness in you. But you have to truly know that you're going through a lot of turmoil, you're going through a big change, and it will take time for things to be familiar again and for things
Hmm.
to be happy again. But that doesn't mean that you can't find happiness in those moments. I think it takes very intentional efforts towards making sure that you're doing the things that you found joy in, but finding a new way to enjoy the same things as you used to. And that is something you build over time, but I think is something that students should put intentional effort towards, into really thinking, really bringing a piece of their old life into this new life, as we call.
Yes, absolutely. I think you have said it all. Nothing else to add from my end. Okay, so the next is, in Canada, I see a lot of people, especially students, commuting to different cities either for school or work. Are there any ways that you can suggest to make the best of the commute time? I
Mhm.
mean, I can start by saying start listening to my Thick Accent podcast.
I don't know. Honestly, I feel like us as a generation, we are so hooked to being productive all the time that we want to make everything into something. Like,
Yeah.
why can't the commute just be commute?
Just look
Why
outside the window, look at the
why can't
scenery.
you just look outside a window and look at the scenery? Why can't you take that 1 hour to do nothing? right? Like
Yeah.
take that 1 hour to just look outside the window, sit with your thoughts, sit, debunk the day you've had or debunk the day you're going to have.
Yeah.
Like why do we need to make the best out of everything, right? We need to make our hobby into something we earn money out of. And we need to make our social media into something that gets us more opportunities. We need to make our career into something that's going to bring us the fulfillment and joy for the rest of our lives. Like
Yeah.
we're so hooked to doing something all the time, and we're not used to doing nothing anymore. Even if you're sitting in the bathroom or you're waiting for something, our quick response is, let me take out my phone and let me
And look
scroll,
at it. Yeah.
let me consume something, right? Like we're in so much in this consuming mode that yeah, like we get questions like this, and like my answer to that is do nothing. Please give yourself an hour to do nothing. Allow yourself to just enjoy that. Don't use your phone, even if you don't want to use a podcast. Like, of course, listen to my thick accent if you want to make it productive, but don't do anything. Put on your favorite music, look outside the window. Even if you're going to the same route, I'm sure you'll see things you've never seen before. You'll see people you've never seen before. You'll see cars you've never seen before. Like, truly, truly observe everything around you. I think it is such a beautiful thing, because when you see that, even in the thing you're commuting, let's say you're taking a
Yeah.
bus, look at in that bus, look at what they're doing, look at how they're interacting with each other, look at what they're wearing. When you observe things around you, it makes you aware of how the world exists. And I think we are very disconnected in the places we are living in and in the world we're existing, because
Yeah.
we're so connected to a phone and to productivity, and
Hmm.
and anything that is not productive is automatically deemed bad. But we didn't exist like that when we were kids. Did we
Yeah.
think that, hey, I have 1 hour, what can I do to make this hour the best? No, we just went with our curiosity, right?
Yeah.
If we wanted to play something, we went played that. If we didn't want to do something and just lie in the ground, we did that, right? If
Yeah.
we want to take a swing for half an hour, we did that. We weren't like, why am I taking a swing for half an hour and not making it productive? I should rather go run and do something more. No, we allowed ourselves as
Hmm.
kids just be and to just enjoy doing nothing. And I think we
Yeah.
need to bring really back. But if you are in a place that you have 2 3 hours of commute every day, and you are in a place where you don't get to be productive when you go home, right? You are in a place where you think, you can really truly do something, then find out a way what you want to do. Do you want to learn
Yeah.
something? Right? Do you want to listen to a new podcast? Do you want to work on your knitting? I know some people started knitting in your commute. Like try to find a hobby that really just brings you joy and isn't something productive. I think we all need to have hobbies that are just vocations. I think that are just things you enjoy doing, nothing that's going to make you better in your career, a human, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. Something that just brings you joy. Even if it's playing Sugar Rush, play that, but do something
Yeah.
that you enjoy and allow yourself to do that in that time. And I see commute as like when I get to commute, I love that. I'm just like, I don't want to do anything. I'm just gonna look outside the window and I'm just gonna be. And I just like catch up with my thoughts, and that's what you do. So hopefully that answers the question. My answer
Yeah.
would be do nothing. Allow yourself to do nothing, and hopefully that brings some
Yeah.
joy.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect answer. And I can give an example of the commute, which I used to do when I used to go to my work. It will take me like 1.5 hours to go. I have to change like three buses and then come back the same route, and so technically, I had like 3 hours in total. And there were days I literally would have done nothing. And then there were days when I started, working on the podcast. I started like literally researching about people during that commute. Or maybe I started writing like few prompts that I was noticing here and there, with the conversations I was having with people. Because when you go on the same route, you end up meeting the same people again and again, again and again. So then I started having those conversations with people, and I've written a lot of those prompts. And you wouldn't believe I've used some of those in my introductions that I have created so far. So, yeah, that would be my answer. Okay, so let's take another one. There are situations in the life of an immigrant which may make them regret their decision of uprooting from their new country. But at the same time, there are some life-changing moments which makes you feel so proud of yourself for making that big decisions. Talk about a time or a situation when you felt moving abroad was by far the best decision of your life.
Hmm. For me personally,
Mm-hmm.
that is when for me, it's my life, honestly. Like when I am just existing here, right? Being able to step outside my house at any hour, the life I've built, the home I was able to build, the work I do every single day, the opportunities I get, the people I meet, the memories I've made, all of that would have not been possible if I didn't move here. So I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, just having built this life, I am so grateful and so proud that I did take this step, because this life wouldn't have existed if I didn't do that. My parents' life
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have been the way it is if I didn't move. And yes, there's a cost to it, right? There's a lot of things you let go, and there are a lot of times, especially during sickness, when you truly question your decision of moving. But we all moved for some reasons. And if you're able to keep that reason at heart and build a
Mm-hmm.
life around that, and I think that life in itself should be what should make you proud. And that's what I tell all the students as well. We move here not to build careers, we move
Mm-hmm.
here to build a life. And a life is so much more than the job you do. So
Exactly.
truly need to put intention towards is the kind of life we're building for ourselves, the kind of things we're doing every single day. We're waking up, and the focus needs to be to make that life better for yourself, because you're going to live it. Nobody
Yeah.
else, not your parents, not the people on your Instagram, not your relatives. Nobody's going to live this life but you. So why would you make that life into something that you don't enjoy living, just because you should be doing a certain things for a certain metrics, right? A lot of times I find that in the way we spend. A lot of us as immigrants are so used to wanting to keep saving more so that we can give bigger gifts. But when we
Yeah.
go back, we can do better things. We can build a bigger home back home, right? And we can just give more. And I see that mentality a lot. And we put ourselves at the last. And that's something I truly hope that people can make a shift. I'm not saying spend all your money, but out of everything you earn, make sure you keep a slice of it for yourself. Like, make sure you are filling the cup for yourself. Make sure you are asking yourself this question of what kind of a life do I want to live? And as I said, it doesn't has to be a big home that you build. Even if it's your room, put some intention there. What kind of a room do I want? Do I
Mm-hmm.
want to add something here? What is that thing that you use every day? Is it coffee? It's your phone, whatever it is. Can I make this? Can I give myself a little upgrade in that? Right? Truly doing things for yourself and enjoying the money that you're earning, enjoying the hard work that you're doing is what makes you enjoy your life and feel like this sacrifice was enough. Because it's not the highlights. Highlights come and go. It's your everyday life. And if your
Exactly.
everyday life can be something that you truly enjoy, I think the cost of then letting go of a life that you've left behind is that, because a lot of our lives back home were centered towards enjoying the life, because the
Yeah.
structure was already there, food was there, people were there, friends were there. It was truly a life we were living. And now that we've moved here, all of a sudden everything becomes about money and career. And the
Yeah.
moment you take both of these out of the equation, we forget that it's about the life we lived and the life we are now living. And that's what's truly makes you either happy or miserable. So I think that's what I would say. For me, it's my life. Every day I live, I'm just so grateful and happy that this country gave me a chance to do this. And not for a second make me regret my decision of leaving home. Because it's a new life that I wanted to build, and I built that.
You said it so perfectly, Ramneet. I think you said it all. But one thing I'll add, for me, it was the moment when I shifted my mindset from where have I come to
Hmm.
wow, where have I come? So that moment of realization that this is a world full of opportunities, the ability to connect with people from all around the world. And like you said in the episode, no, this is like a mini world. You are getting exposed to people from everywhere, the cuisines from everywhere. Make the best use of it. And yes, you will question, you will miss the people back home, and it's fine. You should. Why not? It's what you have come from. That's within you, and but I think at the same time, make the best of this world, and so that you should look back and you will say that yes, it was the best decision of my life. And I can say that I think I'm definitely a better Gurasis 2.0 version of myself, what I was back in India. So yeah.
I truly believe, that the grass is greener wherever you water it kind of person.
Exactly.
I think it's easier to look
I
at
like
the other
that.
side or think about your previous life and think that that was better. But there was something that made you move, right? And there was
Yeah.
something that made you leave. And we forget that. And and there was something that lured you about Canada. Is right? Like maybe that decision was wrong. Let's just take hypothetically that decision was wrong. You were living a much better life. One thing you need to know is every decision majorly is reversible if you really want it to be. If you have the option, you can go back and change it. But if you
Yeah.
don't have the option to go back and change it, then what's the point of thinking about it? Then
Mhm.
what you really can think about is there something I can do today to make this decision better, to make this decision right for me? And if not, is there another decision I can make to change it then, right? And it's always about what can you do here versus what you could have done before, because we can't do that. It's done. It's made. The decision's made. You cannot go
Yeah.
back in the past. Only can go in the future. So might as well go it in a way that at least is right for you now.
Absolutely. Perfect. Love that. So on that note, those are all the questions that we received. And once again, thank you so much, Ramneet, for joining me today to celebrate this milestone of 25 episodes. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast earlier as well. And once again, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Gurasis, for having me. And I totally love our conversation again. I'm sure it's going to be one another longest conversation episode you're going to have that I need to talk less. But anyways, amazing to talk to you and always bringing in this conversation. And yeah, I wish nothing but success and happiness for you and for your podcast. And I know it's going to go at great heights. And the million, very easy. I can totally see that. We'll celebrate when it comes to a million, and please bring me back on this podcast.
Awesome. Perfect. Noted. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Gurasis.
Hey, listener. Thank you for making it to the end. You can also leave us a review or write to us at hello@mythickaccent.com. So stay tuned and let's continue knowing each other beneath the accent.